Shalom Aleichem, this is Rabbi Kovacs, and our Limud in Mishnah Yomi continues. We are beginning the 7th chapter in Pesachim. This is the Limud for Shabbat Chol Hamoed Pesach, and we are switching to the topic of roasting our korban Pesach and the logistics of consuming it. So chapter 7, Mishnah Aleph. Keitzad solin et Pesach. How do you roast your Pesach? Mevin shapud. You bring a stick, a skewer, shel rimon, from a pomegranate tree. And you stick it through the animal from the mouth to the other end, the other opening. And you put the legs and the kishkas back inside the animal. These were detached and cleaned up in the case of the intestines, as we learned in the last parak, and the legs could be detached without breaking a bone. They'd cut the ligaments and rip them off, and they'd stick them back in to roast inside. Divrei Rabbi Yossi HaGalili. Rabbi Akiva disagrees. He says, Kamin bishul huzeh, that would, for the legs and the kishkas, that would actually cook them. What would basically happen there is the body of the animal would turn into a container or a pot, because the juices and the steam inside the animal would basically boil or cook the legs and the kishkas inside. So, elatolin chutzalo. So you would suspend the legs and the kishkas outside of the animal, or if you see in some of the picture books they have, they stuck it on top, they wrapped it around the stick and stuck it on top of the animal when it was frying. Not roasting. Now, what's with the choice of a skewer from a pomegranate tree? Well, we can't use a metal skewer, because if we do, then the metal will get very, very hot, and it will roast the animal from the inside out. And the pasuk commands sli eish, roasted on the fire, not sli as a result of eish plus a superheated metal skewer inside. And the pomegranate also, it doesn't get very hot, it doesn't absorb heat very well, and it also doesn't let out a lot of moisture. So one of the things, God willing, this is Bli Neder, one of the things I'm going to do personally when I get to Yerushalayim to live, I'm going to plant a lot of pomegranate trees. So every Pesach, I'm going to make a small fortune selling pomegranate skewers. On to Mishnah Beit. Ein solin et Pesach lo ala shapud. We do not roast the Pesach, not on a metal skewer, as we just mentioned. It would be tzli from the metal, not from the eish. V'lo ala askala, and not on a metal sheet either. Now, this seems to be a flat sheet that's not a grate with big enough openings to allow the heat of the fire through. Rabbi Tzadok brings, Ma'aseh, there was an event, Rabbi Gamliel, Sha'amr LaTavi Avdo, he said to Tavi, his servant, and this Tavi is actually famous in Masechet Sukkah for sleeping under the bed. As we're going to see, he was very learned, he was very wise. Say utzlei lanu et Pesach ala oskala. Go and roast us up a Pesach on this oskala. So it must have been, the oskala in question here was not a sheet that was getting hot from the fire, but was a grill with big enough openings to let the fire do the roasting. Now the Mishnah continues, Noga becharso shel tanur. What if you're roasting inside the oven and the meat, the side of the Pesach, the meat touches the side of the oven? So now the problem is it's not sli eish anymore. It's not roasted from fire. It's roasted from the superheated cheres, ceramic of the side of the oven. So what do? Yiklov et mekomo. You peel off where it touched the oven. What if nataf miroitvo ala cheres v'chazor, some of the rotiv, the gravy, the juice, the drippings from the Pesach fell onto the side of the oven, the inside of the oven, which is super hot, and then that drop of gravy got basically cooked and chazor and returned back onto the Pesach. Yitol et mekomo. You take a netila of that makom where that drop hit it. And again, this is to prevent the consumption of Pesach that has been cooked by other means, not through tzli eish. So if it's cooked as a result of touching the oven, then you can't actually eat that part. You might have noticed that yiklof is just you peel off the outside layer, whereas yitol, you take a netila, like netilat yadayim is your fingers, it's a finger's width into the meat. And finally, the Mishnah says, Nataf mirot v'olasolet, if some of the gravy dripped out of the animal onto the flour, he had flour in the oven because he's baking his matzahs also. Yikmots, it might be pretty risky actually to try to bake matzahs at the same time roasting the Pesach because of the juice and the drippings, and maybe it'd be too hot. I don't know. It's sorachiyun. I'm not Bucky in roasting to know about if you could bake matzah in the same time. But anyway, if some gravy from the korban Pesach drips onto the flour, which is in the oven, yikmots and mekom, you take kmitza, you take a scoop out of that flour, because the flour, being in the oven, of course, is very hot, so it's cooking that gravy, so you can't eat that drop of gravy because it's not sli eish, it's basically baked inside of the flour. And remember, sli eish is what we're after here in terms of roasting our carbon Pesach. Sei gesund and be well.